Hey, it's Adele from Let's Get Inky, and I am very excited to show you today's video. Cricut reached out and asked if I would like to try their Cricut Maker to make some projects on both this channel and my other YouTube channel, and I leapt at the opportunity to do so because cutting machines is something that I've always been interested in, but a little bit nervous because you all know my history with technological things like printers and breaking them, and I was a little bit apprehensive to try this out. But let me tell you, this Cricut machine is so simple to use. I was able to create 2 projects for you today, and I'll also be dabbling in some other things in March over on my channels. And it was able to cut a range of different materials, which I'll show you in a moment here. So I wanted to show you a bit of an unboxing because I do love a little unboxing to see what's included. The thing that I really appreciated is that they've included these really simple instructions. So there is no way to possibly get lost in setting up your Cricut for the first time. I also should prerequisite this video with the fact that I am a complete novice. I have never seen one of these in action. I've never used one, and so you're really getting the beginner experience from myself today. So I hope that if you are a fellow beginner, that this gives you some inspiration that if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's really simple to use. So included in the box are some instructions. There's also this very handy dandy booklet that goes through everything you could possibly need to know. It goes through all of the design space aspects, all of the tools that you can have, the different mats, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then at the back it has these quick reference pages, which I really do appreciate because a lot of the time you just want to be able to troubleshoot your problem nice and quickly, and the answer's right there. There's also a blade, as well as a cable and a couple of other little bits and bobs included here. If you are a Cricut user already, the project does start at the 5-minute mark, but I wanted to show you the things that they sent me, so just to give you a bit of an idea as to what I was starting off with. And I'm so excited to show you how this project worked out. This will be an ongoing thing because in this first video we are creating a journal cover, and we're creating all of the pages inside the journal, and then later on in some future videos, probably in March, April, I will be art journaling on all of these pages, so that will be good fun. The thing that I really appreciated most about using this Cricut for the first time is that a novice like myself, you could not get lost in the software, and I really appreciated that each step flowed on from one to the other, which you'll see in a little moment when we start cutting all of the things. Oh, happy dance, whoop whoop. And there was just no way to get mixed up with what blade you needed, what material you were cutting. There's hundreds of materials that you can cut quickly and accurately, and it was just so easy. I can't emphasize how easy it was, so that was fun. I've got a few different goodies that they sent me on top of the Maker machine. So these are additional items that you can purchase. And I should add that the machine's available at shops like Harvey Norman, Spotlight, Big W, JB Hi-Fi, Costco for all of my Aussie peeps. I got a range of faux leathers to try out, as well as some of the vinyls, both the permanent and the temporary ones, which we're going to try out in a different video. I also got the little tool kit, which I didn't realize until Aaron was helping me out with some of the bits. But the little flap that folds down from the front of the Cricut, where you put your mat in, which you'll see in a little moment, it has a little compartment that you can store all of the tools in. And I just thought that was a really nifty added bit that they didn't have to put in the machine, but it just makes life so much easier for the person who's actually using it to not lose things. Because let's be honest, I don't know about your craft space, but sometimes things like to take a walk and disappear. And so I like that the spatula and all of the little scrapey tools can be stored with the machine. So here's a little overview. We've got a few different mats to try out. There's the basic tool set that I was just talking about. And let's get making all of the things. Yay! Okay, so The first thing I am trying out is this journal cover. So I went onto the Design Space software and I typed in journal cover, and I found this beautiful cover that had a cutout design that was all floral and just very inky-ish. So I thought that would be perfect for today's project. And you can see here the Cricut is cutting out the faux leather. It's cutting it out like it's scooping out butter. It's going so smoothly through the material, even though it is a thicker material. It's not just like paper thin. And then I'm peeling it off my mat. This is my favorite part. It's like the unveiling, and it just simply comes off. The mat is the perfect amount of stick. It's not too sticky. It's like the Goldilocks of mats. It's not too sticky. It's not too not sticky. It's just the perfect stickness. So here is my journal, and it's even cut out the little holes in it. Now, the project that I opened up and I bought in Design Space did have an option to cut the paper and use a scoring blade, which I didn't have at the time. So I opted to just quickly fold up some different bits of paper to include in my journal. And I decided to go with a range of different papers just to add to the fun of the challenge of trying to finish an entire journal in one video. I have sped up some parts quite fast because there's a lot of repeated things of putting in pages, and as you'll see in a little bit, there is a lot of repeated gel printing in a moment. But I've got my pages, and I think I picked 2 bits of vellum, 2 bits of watercolor paper, 2 bits of scrapbooking cardstock, and then I think there might be 1 normal printer paper page. So then I have grabbed some thread, and I'm just putting it through quite a large needle so that I can get all of the paper in one go. I've got my trusty pen here, and I'm just measuring. I really appreciated that they put the holes, it already cut the holes through the journal cover, so I didn't have to worry about pushing my needle through the leather and having it not go in the right place. I'm using an old spare book just as kind of my backing to poke my holes in, because I didn't want to poke my desk, and it was just nice and handy to get that in. And so now I am just simply stitching through the holes that were already there, in, out, in. I think that's right. Yep. Out, in, and then tying a simple knot in the center. And then to work with the center knot to kind of hide it a little bit, I do make the center page a pocket, which I'll show you in a moment here. So I'm tying that off, and then I think I did a triple knot just to securely tie that. If you know some sort of fancy knot that would be more secure, you can do that too. Now, you don't have to make the center page into a pocket. It's just something that I like to do just to give my journal a little bit of something different when I'm making junk journals. Here's a little flip through. I just layered the papers so that there weren't 2 of the same one next to each other. And this is the first time that I've gel printed in a journal. Usually I gel print on separate pieces of paper, but I thought I'd try something different. And it was lots of fun. It did take a little while because unlike gel printing on separate pieces of paper, I had to dry the pages in between so that they didn't stick to each other. And one thing that I really liked, that I was a little nervous at some point, was that I got quite a lot of paint on the cover of this faux leather. And at the time I was a little bit nervous that it wasn't going to come off, but it wiped off so easily with just water and a cloth. So I really liked that aspect of the leather. So here I've kept this first part in my normal double time, but I do speed up as we go along because there's quite a few pages to fill. So I've got my little gel plate here, and I know that gel plates come in lots and lots of different sizes and shapes, and I have a couple of different ones, but this is still my fave. It was my first one, and I just find that it's a really easy size to manipulate on the page. It's not too big. It's another Goldilocks moment. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's just the right size without it getting a bit too floppy and awkward. And You can see here I put way too much paint on my gel plate, and this is something that I learnt the hard way when I first started gel printing. I filmed a gel printing class, I think it was just before Archie was born, so it'd be about 5 or 6 years ago now. He's turning 5 in a couple of months, peeps. Can you believe that? But I filmed a gel printing class, and it was a really great way to figure out the jelly printing process and how much paint to use. And my one tip with gel printing is you don't need a lot of paint. It's just like stenciling. You think you don't have enough paint, but you do. You can go very overboard with the paint, like I once did, and I still do sometimes, because it's all a learning experience. But I did film that class and I never released it. But if you would be interested in a gel printing class, I would re-record it and let me know. I focused a little bit more on colour theory and which colours are layered well together, and different surfaces to print on, and all sorts of things. So while I've been yakking on, I printed my first couple of pages, and what I like to do is I like to use my brayer, which is that roly thing that I was just using before, and I like to use that to just get some simple pops of colour onto the pages so that they're not blank, because so often the blank page it's scary. It can be quite overwhelming, and especially when you're gel printing, it's nice to have something already on the page so that you've got a jumping off point to layer stenciling, and then in future videos you'll see we'll be layering some doodling and some focal images and quotes and all sorts of things. So I'm going through, and I always try to start with paler colours. It doesn't last long. I usually leap very quickly into the more saturated colours, but on some of the pages I'm simply just rolling the excess paint onto them, and it's just, like I said, a nice way to just get something on the page. I'm also using the negatives of the stencils, so you can see there I used that with the stencil through the paper, and then I took the stencil off and there was still a little bit left, so I like to just kind of squeeze it in the corners where I can. And I'm quite a fan of the distressed look of the paint as well. And what was really interesting is, in the past I've only gel printed on either quite flat cardstock without much texture or deli paper, but this particular piece of watercolor paper, she gave me a bit of grief, peeps. She was very textured, very textured, and it was a bit of a new experience with gel printing, because I had to befriend the watercolor paper a little bit and press extra hard. You can see there that there's bits that are skipped because of the texture, and I learned to love that, but it was a bit of a learning experience. So if you're interested in making a journal like this, I highly recommend popping on to the Cricut software and seeing if there's a journal cover that you like, cutting it out and using a whole range of different papers, because it was a nice little experimentation, I guess you could say, with all the different papers. I do love vellum. It is not a friendly material to work with. It sometimes doesn't like to play nice. It doesn't always like being heated to dry, which when you're doing multiple pages is kind of a critical factor. And you'll see here it did stick. There is one page that stuck together that I was a little bit not patient enough, but I'm glad to say it was the only one that stuck together, I think. This page, I did have the intention of this one, here we go. There we go. That page just prior with the pink and the blue, I did have the intention of layering more stencils over it, but it just turned out so delicious. It reminded me of, I don't know, it just reminded me of like fairy floss, or just something really soft and delicate but with really subtle colours in it, and so I kept it as is. I think it's one of the only pages that escaped my wrath of stenciling. You can also use the stencils if you have wet paint to put them down as is. And I should add, the paints that I'm using today are all cheapy paints from my local $2 shop, except for one, I think the Liquitex one. But all of the others are very cheap, you know, $2 paints that are targeted towards kids, and they work beautifully. I do prefer to use cheaper acrylic paints with my gel print, just because you do go through quite a bit of paint, and I also just feel a little bit more freedom when I'm playing with cheaper paints, because I don't have to worry about, you know, oh, that daub of paint that equals $1.50, or you know, I just feel a bit more free using them. So if you're someone who's new to gel printing, hop down to your local cheap shop and see what you can find in the kids art section. Some of these pages I'm just obsessed with. I wish I hadn't have done this to this one, because I really loved the stars, but you can still see them from the other side, so that's okay. That was one of the good things about the vellum pages, is that a lot of the patterns you could see through the vellum, which was really nice. And it also allowed me to layer the colours in an interesting way. Vellum's not something that I've printed on before. So actually, no, I have printed on vellum, but not in the sense of using both sides of the vellum, like in a book form. So that was a new little thing for me. My heat gun certainly got a workout in this video. And I would say that the actual gel printing took maybe an hour and a half or so. And a lot of that was the drying time. I have sped the drying time up significantly fast. And the actual cutting using the Cricut Maker did not take long at all. I think it was probably maybe 15 minutes all up. And that was with me using the software for the first time and doing the test project, which I really appreciated. They included some test materials in the box with the machine. So they included a couple of bits of cardstock, and there was some software prompts where you went through and you cut a design of your choosing from the cardstock, and it's talked you through step by step as to what you needed to press on the machine and on your computer. And that was just a really nice introduction as to how on earth to use the thing. And it definitely filled me with a bit of confidence, especially when you're someone who's not as tech savvy as other people. And it just allowed me to go, oh, okay, well, it's that easy. Okay, I can do it. I can branch out now and choose my own project to do. So that was really handy. Now, for some of these pages, this one in particular, I really loved it the way it was, because I don't clean my gel plate between paint smushing. I guess is that the technical term? Paint rolling, I guess you might call it that. But because I don't clean my gel plate between them, you often get these little ghostly images of previous stencils that you've used, where some of the paint is still attached to the gel plate, and I really, really enjoy that. Adding over here, just adding a tiny little bit on the edge, and one of the paints, I have a feeling it's the dark blue, is a little bit thicker than the others. I think that the gel plate works best with really thin acrylic paints, which is another reason why I use cheaper paints, because a lot of my I guess you could call them artist grade paints are the heavy bodied ones, because I use them on canvases. And so I find that the cheaper acrylics are a lot thinner in consistency, and the brayer just flows over them a lot easier. So I'm just, while I've got my brayer still a little bit wet with the hot pink paint, I am just adding it to random pages just here and there until it's all cleaned up. And usually what I would do is, if I was doing this on just separate pieces of paper, I would have a spare piece of paper always at hand, ready to clean my brayer on, because it's just like my use it up journal. There's no point wasting paint when you can use it and then layer it and add more stencils to it and more things to create a project in itself. Now, this little flower was actually the practice project that I did that I was just talking about, and I decided to use it like a stencil. So I popped it down and then I peeled my journal off, and it made this really sweet little stencil. So you could make your own stencils using just cardstock And then you could even use those pieces of cardstock later on and glue them into your journal as well. So the world is your oyster? The oyster is your world. Is that the saying? Peeps, you know that I often turn phrases into my own by getting them very wrong, but the world of the Cricut Maker is your oyster. Let's just say that that's the right phrase. And you could make your own stencils for a project like this if you're someone that doesn't have a stencil stash. And then, like I said, you could then use the pieces of cardstock on other pages. Here I just felt like I was missing a little something. The thing about this pink paint is that it dries really, really quickly, which is a good thing. And it's also a bad thing because you don't get to have a lot of multiple prints out of using it. And I don't know if that's just because of the fluoro nature of it or the brand of paint that it is, but it doesn't stay wet for very long. So it's a bit tricky with gel printing, but I love the colour so much that I insist on using it and persevere through the dry time. So I'm almost at the end here, and I hope this video has given you some inspo to pull out your Cricut if you've got one at home, or to maybe buy yourself one, treat yourself, because I think as crafters we often make things for other people and we often forget to treat ourselves as well. So I will definitely be using this machine in lots of future videos because of the ease of it, and you peeps know that I'm just not that tech savvy, and if I found it easy, any of you would definitely find it easy. So I'm just doing the final few pages here, and this one was one of those watercolor pages, and I really struggled with it. So in the end, covered it up with pink because when in doubt, like I always say, you can always cover it up. And she's done. I love the peekaboo from that front journal cover. I absolutely adore it. You can see all of the paint wiped off the back cover and the front cover. The inside's a little bit different because it's more of a suede material, but I think when I'm finished, I'm going to paint the inside whatever color I feel like at the moment. I love that previous page is one of my favorites. This one, I can see a quote running down the bottom. So excited to add some more details to this. Once again, huge thank you to Cricut for reaching out and wanting to work with me. I will have a few more videos coming up in the next few weeks working with some of their products. Check out the project on my other channel to see some extra things, some DIY embellishments over there. And I just want you to challenge yourself to try something new, hop out of your comfort zone, and just have fun. Just have fun creating some things for you. All right, peeps, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.